because if there can be this kind of evil, there has to be something to match it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do these people know that would match that? And the only thing that they have that is what in their mind big enough is Christianity.
Yeah.
And Catholicism, clearly, because he's grabbing holy water, he's talking to a Catholic priest.
Because he filled a whiskey
Jim
bottle,
Beam bottle
with holy water.
He had dumped it out on the church steps, running inside to it first. Let's clarify.
And then stole a crucifix and was caught by a priest.
Yes.
And says, "I'm leaving you my driver's license. I'll come back. I really need it."
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting.
Think about it. If you are being introduced to such a paranormal evil,
Mm-hmm.
Such an evil that you couldn't even fathom existed, and it's legitimately happening to you, what big enough thing would you think would combat something like that? If there is this version of evil, there has to be a counterpart.
Yeah.
So what would that counterpart be? And if we have any introduction to it versus the unknown evil like Freddy or something else, our introduction is God.
Yeah.
That would be the only equivalent. So I think it's in a scared person against a paranormal evil, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. No, I'm not arguing that at all. The
You wanna
movie,
fight me?
no, never. It makes an interesting play because the doctor says he's a believer in science, and because Amanda Kruger says, like, what faith do you follow? And he says science. And they don't use science at all to defeat Freddy, so it's an interesting, like, oh, maybe there is a God for the main characters. Sure. I don't know. It's a stretch.
No. That's absolutely correct. They looked at something that was unbelievable, and instead of going the scientific route, like medications, and he gets bigger if the more you believe in him or whatever. Because essentially that's what Freddy is. Freddy's Tinkerbell.
Yeah, and
the more you believe, the bigger he gets.
And I forget which one of the movies they make a big point of not being afraid of Freddy, taking the power away from him. Mm-hmm. That's not as much on display in this one, so much as them just fighting fire with fire.
Yes, exactly. Like, we may actually get kind of two sides of the coin. This isn't Nancy's most scientific route, but she is going the route that she knows, and it's not towards religion. But, you're right. You're absolutely right. A scientist didn't think to go to science first. He saw something that he couldn't fathom was real, and instead of studying it like you would anything that you can't fathom is real, you would just go towards...
Well, Amanda Kruger is the one who told him to lay the bones to rest in hallowed ground. And he instantly takes that as the only way to do it. And it's an interesting tact for a man of science.
Yeah, he doesn't test the hypothesis.
Yeah.
He just jumps to the solution he believes is right.
Yeah. The Friday the 13th series kind of goes a very different route with it, where a Voorhees can only be killed by a Voorhees with a fucking Kandarian dagger. And I love when they try to bring about that end to these characters, and they go all out with like the craziest bullshit, whether it's a fucking long lost relative has to do it. They even went that route in fucking Nightmare on Elm Street 5. Freddy's dead. No, that was 6, wasn't it?
Freddy's dead?
Yeah.
So, right now, we're kind of coming up on our climax. Nancy has the remaining kids, Taryn, Will...
Kincaid,
and Kristen, and they are now they're in dreams together, and so they are in this kind of fucked up version of a padded room that's just ginormous, and Freddy's slashing up the padded walls and all the feathers are going everywhere, and Kristen starts trying to scream herself awake, but she's not awake.
No. Freddy has done what Freddy does and separates the kids.
Yep.
Now you can hear Into the Fire playing in the background by Dokken.
Yep.
And here is Kristen's nightmare of a mom.
Yes. She, one of Kristen's nightmares, because Freddy's now, he's going Inception dreaming here, putting them in their own kind of dream hellscapes, their own nightmares, and Kristen's nightmare is her mother. So I think that's one of the last times we see Kristen's mom. Freddy didn't actually kill her. She does show up in the fourth one, too.
I like Tuxedo Freddy a lot.
Oh, hell yeah.
There's a weird inconsistency in Freddy Krueger's voice in this movie. Sometimes it's very much just like plain old Robert Englund, and other times it's very growly, effects heavy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just like a production error or if it's intentional, but it's noticeable.
This is very 80s music video to me.
Oh, it super duper is.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about the Elm Street movies is how they all feel like they are on a soundstage.
Oh, 100%.
Like nothing feels real in them.
No. I mean, this is supposed to simulate an alley. It's just this cute little soundstage.
Yeah.
I love this knife fight. This is a great knife fight.
I don't think there are enough knife fights in movies anymore.
Yeah.
It was a very 80s phenomenon.
It really was. It really was. This is your 80s knife fight music video.
So Taryn is in rehab as well as the not mental institute. You know,
it is considered, like, in this, a mental institute.
Yeah.
Originally, these syringes that he's injecting Taryn with, because again she is a recovering addict, they were originally going to go in her neck and it's going to make her head explode. They decided against that, and he ended up putting them into her arms.
The kills in this movie are really not, like, overly gory. Like, there's gore, but it's not like in the first one you have, like, the waterbed that just erupts fucking blood.
Johnny Depp's kill.
Yeah. You don't really have a lot of that in this, because even, like, when Philip is being
kind of marionetted.
Like
puppeteered. I'm sorry.
There's not gushing blood.
No,
it's open wounds, and you just see the tendons.
Yes, yeah.
And it's only in the dream sequences. So in real life, you don't even see that. Whereas in the other movies, you see the gore happening in both realities.
Right.
And like this, you know, Freddy cuts Dream Mom's head off. And the head talks, and there's blood hanging down, but you don't see the head come off the body.
And yeah, it's not spurting or anything like you would typically get.
I'm honestly surprised that I didn't see more in any of the readings about this having a hard time with censors. And I wonder if it was just fantastical enough that the gore was not really an issue. Mm-hmm. And because there wasn't, like, fountains of blood.
God, that's so cool. That's so cool for Will.
And so he becomes an actual wizard, and there's this Freddy Krueger-ass wheelchair rolling at him, and he explodes it with laser beams out of his hands.
And I want you to know, like, when you say Freddy Krueger-ass wheelchair, you know exactly what kind of wheelchair. It's covered in spikes and knives. It is such a bummer, though, because Will, he gets, like, this Doctor Strange-like cape.
Yeah. Starts
shooting 80s glow sticks out of his fingers. But Freddy, of course, overcomes him because he says, "I don't believe in fairy tales," and so he stabs him.
The other kids die off very quickly towards the end of the movie. Because it is one after the other.
Right. They don't. He doesn't. Because he knows who he's going for. Mm-hmm. So it's just one right after the next.
So the actor who plays Kincaid initially didn't want to audition for the role at all, and his name is Ken Sagos? Ken Sagos. Yeah, he really didn't want the part, and his agent was like, just go audition for it.
Yeah, I know this story.
Yeah, and it ended up being a huge pain in the ass. By the time he got there, he was in a bad mood.
Well, it had, like, poured down rain, and he had to walk there, and so they ended up, the auditions were running long, so he had to sit and wait a couple hours. So, like, dude's soaking wet. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want this role. They're making him wait for hours. And so by the time he gets in there, what is his name?
Chuck Russell, just like...
said, do anything for me.
Yeah.
And he goes, fuck you!
Yeah.
And Chuck Russell goes, yeah, cool. you're hired right there.
And it's a perfect encapsulation of what Kincaid is as a character, because he's really fucking angry about this entire situation.
Yes, he is. He is over that shit.
And the team up of the five at the end is very much, hello, Seamus. Hello. It goes back to, you know, those relationships that I talked about them building. Because at one point, Nancy gives all of them an out. She's like, you don't have to go in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they're all like, fuck it, we're going in.
Yeah.
Like, we are helping our friends.
Yeah.
So it's...
Like, this is our story, too, now. Like, this is our battle as well.
Yeah.
And this is really, you get your dream... This is your warriors right here, where they're like, no. Like, we're a part of this just as much as you are.
I love the recurring motif of the junkyard of cars.
God, how many junkyard of cars do you see in movies?
Not enough anymore.
Not anymore, but man, oh man, like...
And again, feels just like a fucking soundstage.
Yes, it does. So the doctor has found Freddy's bones in a junkyard car of all places.
Yeah, that is where
Nancy's dad put him. And Nancy's dad is there, and they're fighting about it and everything, and it's just... I mean... I fucking agree with the doctor. What the fuck, man?
Yeah, take ownership.
A junkyard of, like, what? Where is the logic there?
I assume it was so in case there were outside investigations into the disappearance of Fred Krueger, that it would be incredibly difficult to find him. Also, it just makes for a cool motif in these fucking movies.
Ah, man.
I mean, because they go back to it a lot.
It's just nuts.
I know.
Nuts.
That's what these movies are, is fucking nuts.
I know, man. So, this, like, boiler room scene, this is a fire station.
Is it really?
Yeah, they had just used it because they were able to adjust the steam.
Joey is still fucking tied up with tongues, which is... And they're all moving around, and it's fucking just gross.
I mean, and to be fair, we didn't see Joey die. We just saw him, you know, get licked a bunch, and he got sucked into the portal bed, and that was all we saw. So it's cool to have Joey come back over this, like, ridiculous pit of fire in this absurd supposed boiler room.
And all sorts of skeletons hanging around.
And the fact that Patricia Arquette is just this, like...
She's a luchador, essentially. Doing fucking flips in the air and drop-kicking Freddy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to see.
I love that Kincaid's badass outfit. It looks like it's straight off the set of Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, he's Mr. T. Yeah, he is. I was like, oh, he is straight up, like, A-Team in it.
You know, for me, it looks more like Breakdance Crew.
Sure.
Nancy has just speared Freddy Krueger, and he fucking laughs at her.
And this is when he opens his shirt, and it's one. I think this is creepy.
It's a great effect.
Yeah.
And it is one of those scenes where, you know, they had this great plan to beat Freddy, and he's just like, you can't fucking beat me.
Yeah. And like Nancy even says it, he's never been this strong.
The souls of children give me strength.
Ah.
It's goofy as fuck, but it's perfect for this film.
It looks like silly putty. It looks like stretched out, melted silly putty that they made faces in, and then the faces it's in his torso, basically. He rips open his shirt, and his torso looks straight up like stretched out silly putty, like the skin colored silly putty that comes in the little like plastic egg.
Yeah. And this is before CGI was like a big thing.
Oh yeah, so that's like a suit.
Yeah,
almost.
There's practical effects.
Yes.
Out the ass. Like there is a little bit of early CGI when the balls that clack back and forth.
Yeah.
When they're hypnotized, those start floating around.
Yes.
So there's like early CGI. But more or less everything else is practical effects done in camera.
Yep.
Yeah, I love this motif where Freddy is haunting the... I keep saying motif like some kind of fucking hipster. I like this scene a lot where Freddy is haunting the cars in the car cemetery, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Junkyard.
Yeah, and is taunting Dr. Neal and Nancy's dad because they've dug a hole, they're going to bury the body, they're going to bless with the holy water.
Yep.
They're going to lay Fred Krueger to rest. And then John Saxon has that awesome line, bury the fucking thing. He delivers it so well.
Yes, he does.
We've talked before about how much we love John Saxon.
Yes.
He is amazing. As an actor, not a screenwriter.
Correct.
I'm going to do research while I'm editing this and find out that John Saxon's actually a really fucking great writer.